How much a video is watched is an important part of YouTube analytics, and the greater percentage of watch time each video gets helps move that video or that content creator's videos up in the algorithm and the sidebar. It gets more notice and so forth. That's why a lot of creators will have a teaser at the beginning that you really got to watch to the end of the video to know exactly what that point is going to be. Well, I'm not going to keep you in suspense. I really do hope you watch the entire video. I'll try to keep it short, but you know how writer's range goes with videos. Short is something not in our vocabulary. Anyway, so I've already wasted a lot of time doing that. But anyway, I'll give you a spoiler here. In the tabletop review of the Smith Wesson CSX, I didn't own the gun. Well, it's sitting in front of you for part 2, so you must know that I now own it, which gives you some hint that I actually liked it. Just how much and what goes right and what goes maybe wrong, stick around to the end, that you will see. I want to welcome you to Rider's Range, and this is part 2 of the Smith & Wesson CSX 9mm single-action hammer-fired pistol. For the original tabletop, Ann Arbor Arms was kind enough to loan me this gun, but actually I really did like it. So at the end of that tabletop, I went down and bought the gun. It's been to the range several times, both at Ann Arbor Arms as well as my personal range, and I've shot it a lot. Even had some other people shoot the gun. We've put more than 300 rounds through it so far, and probably more than 100 dry fires. So we've been breaking it in, and enough to form an opinion. But before I get to the shooting part, I really want to go over a couple of things that I didn't cover during the initial tabletop, or maybe I just didn't even know about. One thing is the cocking ears. I didn't mention that. By the way, for the YouTube manual reviewers, this gun is empty. You can see that there's nothing in the chamber, nothing in the magazine, and every firearm that I'm going to bring out here is properly safety checked. Anyway, there's little ears on the back right behind the cocking serrations on here that stick out just a little bit, and that gives you just a little bit better grip if you're going to pinch the slide to work it. On a small gun like this, that may actually work better, particularly with the safety. If you try to run the slide with your hand cupped over it, you may very well bump into the safety. So the best way to run this one is grabbing the back of the slide and pinching and pulling. The Smith & Wesson Shield Plus that we reviewed, again, empty, folks, does not have any cocking ears. It's got the fish scale type serrations on it, but no cocking ears. The Shield EZ, however, again, empty. The Shield EZ does have relatively pronounced cocking ears, more so than what you see on the CSX. But nothing yet, at least nothing in my inventory, beats the cocking ears you're going to find on the HK VP9 SK. And I also didn't talk that much about controls. Now that I've had a chance to work with it, the thumb safety in particular, I'm a 1911 guy, you know that from all the videos I've done. The thumb safety works very well to engage, disengage with right or left hand. It's positive clicks, positive actions. It's not going to go on or be activated in the safe position very easily, not, at least probably not accidentally. So it's good positive there. And a viewer asked about the slide stop lever, the slide release, and it does actually work very nicely on this. I'm a 1911 guy, so I run the slide release to close the slide, and again, it's ambidextrous, so it can be worked right hand or left hand. I'm not really fond of letting a slide to go home on an empty with no ammunition in here, but it does release index finger or thumb. So the controls are nice on this. And again, the magazine release is there's a separate one that comes with it that you can put in for reversals. You can't just reverse the one that's here, but it does have one to accommodate left-handed shooters. I may have mentioned that this does not take mags from the Shield. They'll fit, but they won't lock in place. Different design between the Shield mag and the CSX mag. Another viewer asked about the sights, whether or not the sights are interchangeable between the CSX and the Shield Plus. And just looking at the dovetails between the two for the rear sight, it looks like the dovetail for the Shield Plus is a little wider than the dovetail for the CSX. Haven't quite figured out the why on that yet. But then again, even if you look at the dovetail on the Shield EZ, it still seems to be just a little bit different than the dovetail for the rear sight on the CSX. Again, not sure why they didn't use the same slide cut for them, but again, must have been a reason for that. The front is dovetailed very similar to the Shield Plus, so that may very well interchange, but for some reason the rear sight doesn't. I don't believe I mentioned holsters in the initial review either. I don't have a holster specifically for this gun, so I grabbed an inside the waistband holster for my Shield, and this will go in. It'll latch in, and it'll actually be fairly tight, although it does move side to side, but it's not going to inadvertently come out, so you can make that work in a pinch. I've got a leather one from Winthrop here that's designed for the Shield, and again, there's a lot of play in this. Even if this is tightened down by the belt, this is not going to stay in this leather holster really well. But I'm sure that by the time you're seeing this video, there'll be companies that will be making the holsters specifically for the CSX. I also didn't compare this with the gold standard, the company that, or the gun that started everything, and that is the P365. And again, it has a manual safety, because being a 1911 guy, I like my manual safeties. This is a 10 round, and this is the 10 round magazine for the CSX, which really isn't 10. We're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. And when you put these guns side by side, well, first of all, let's look at the top. And the barrels are virtually identical between the two. The width of the slide is virtually identical. The sight radius is a little longer on the P365. Of course, it's a striker-fired gun, so naturally the mechanism is going to be just a little bit longer. Looking at it from the back, they're about the same width. The CSX looks just a hair wider at the grip, but they're also about the same height. And again, that's with the 10-round magazines. Now, with the 365, of course, you can put a 10 round in that's got a pinky extension on. That's going to make it just a hair longer than the CSX. 12 round magazine in the CSX versus a 12 round mag for the 365. And again, you're going to be just a hair longer at the tip of the magazine on the 365 than you are on the CSX, just a hair. So relatively comparable size-wise and for capacity-wise. Now, of course, with the 365, you can also run a 15-round magazine. Can't do that yet for the CSX, but it wouldn't surprise me if that comes out sometime in the not-too-distant future. Another comparison between the CSX and the 365 is weight. We mentioned in the original video the CSX is 25.5 ounces. That's loaded with 13 rounds, 124 grain 9mm ammo. Put 13 rounds, and this has a 10 round mag. But if I put the 12 round mag, let's get the right one here, in the 365, and same 13 rounds of ammunition, the 365 is going to be at 27.4 ounces, so just a hair lighter than the CSX. Now, the mags are somewhat of an issue. This is the 12-round mag, and initially I had a hard time putting 12 rounds in here and then seating the magazine. It was tough. However, after using this mag for the course of more than half the shooting, it now will seat with 12 rounds in here. So this really is a 12+1 gun. However, it is not a 10+1 gun. I want to show you why. I'll try to speed up this video so that you don't have to watch me loading 10 rounds in here, or trying to. Before I do that, though, I want to take a measurement. And I'm going to measure right below the number 5 hole. And you can see that the width of the magazine is basically it's 80 hundredths or 806 thousandths of an inch in width. So remember that 0.806. And I'm going to stop at 9 rounds. Not going to put the whole 10 in here just yet, because they are kind of hard to get in. Alright, so there's 9 rounds. Measure in the same place, right below the 5 mark. And remember, we were at 0.806. Now we're at 0.816, hundredth of an inch wider. Does that make a difference? Well, it does not slip in. I have to push it in, and with 9 rounds in, I can seat the magazine, but it takes a little bit of force. Now again, that's 9 rounds in a 10 round magazine. Getting that 10th round in is a little challenging. Alright, there's 10 rounds in. You can see it showing up in the witness hole. And again, measure at the same spot. Remember, we were .806, then .816. Now with 10 rounds, we are .821. That is tough. And all right, I can force this magazine in. I can't push it in far enough to make it lock. So this really is not a 10+1. This is still a 9+1. So you could theoretically, and I'm not going to load it here, but you could theoretically engage the magazine all the way in and then run the slide forward, but you aren't going to top off the magazine, and then pulling it out again is a chore. So a little misleading on the magazine. We're going to talk a little bit more about that when we get toward the end. In the initial review, we talked about the trigger on this. I said that was one of the things that concerned me going into this, because I'd seen some of the early reviews that talked about a bad trigger, 8 pounds plus, false reset, and so forth. And I mentioned in the tabletop that I didn't find that at all. We found that the trigger initially was, after a 5-pull average, was 5 pounds and 4.2 ounces, with more than 400 trigger pulls on it, about 300 live rounds and more than 100 dry fires. This trigger right now is very nice. It's good. It's clean, no false reset, nice tactile reset, and there's not much movement after the reset except for this trigger tab that I just do not like. No sense at all having it there. We'll talk more about that too. Anyway, it is a clean, crisp, not quite 1911 like. It's hard to beat a 1911 on anything, but now that we got a whole lot of work on this trigger, it is averaging out at 4 pounds 1.4 ounces. And if you have any doubt about the accuracy of that, I'll show a quick flash of the calibration card from my Wheeler gauge on this. So it is right on, and 4 pounds 1.4 ounces is a decent trigger by any standards for a hammer fired gun. So as I said, we did shoot it a lot. I shot it indoors at 15 and 25 yards. I had the sales manager, Mike Gluck from Ann Arbor Arms, come in, and he shot it some. We were concerned initially about some reports of slide bite.
First of all, any slide bite? No, I mean, it definitely was touching me, but that's just carbon. Yeah.
And after shooting it a lot, the most I got, even shooting with a high thumb position like I do in 1911, I got just a little bit of an oil track here. I got no scraping, no abrading, no digging into the hand at all shooting with this gun. So I didn't get any slide bite. Mike said that he got just a little bit of a rub of the slide, but it didn't break the skin, didn't cause any abrasions or anything. So slide bite for us was really not an issue, and there's really no real sharp corners on this to dig in anyway. It's going to push, even if you get a big hand up there, it may push a little bit, but I didn't find slide bite. But the sight radius on this makes it a little challenging to shoot. Sight radius on this is only about 4.5 inches. If you look at the Shield Plus, sight radius is quite a bit longer on this, and it's actually about 5.25 inches, so 3/4 of an inch longer for the sight radius on the Shield Plus. Even the little 365, as little as this gun is, has about a 4 3/4 inch sight radius, so a little more than 1/4 of an inch longer on the 365 than it is on the CSX. So a 4.5 inch sight radius makes it a little more difficult to shoot accurately, and I have to admit I struggled with this gun. Although we did take it at 25 and 50 yards, but my accuracy at both of those wasn't what I would expect. At least, and I'm not going to blame it on the gun. I think the gun is perfectly capable, but just trying to get those sights lined up. And again, I ignore the dots. I just shoot the metal on the sights, equal height, equal light, and just trying to get good accuracy out of this. I had to work at it, and if I didn't do my part, the gun definitely didn't do its. But I'm going to blame that on me, not the gun. So at 15 yards, you can see in the targets, this was right on. I couldn't have asked for a gun that was better calibrated at the factory to shoot at 15 yards. And I mean, I put a lot of shots through this thing at 15, was really happy. When I took it down to 25 yards, they started scattering a little bit, more up and down than anything else, but again, that's on me. And I felt that even when shooting the plates and when shooting on my outdoor range, I occasionally, if I really didn't work hard to do my part, that my my vertical had a tendency to occasionally be off, and I'd miss a little. So I did run I ran the plate rack at 12 yards at my range, but I also took it to Ann Arbor Arms on league night and ran the plates on the indoor league. And I won't say I did any stellar times with this thing. We set an 8-plate setup for the league that I ran this in, and I ran a 9.93 and a 10.53, nothing earth-shaking. I also ran my H&K P30 with the LEM trigger at the same time, and had roughly the same times. However, when I ran my HK VP9 SK, the striker-fired gun, that came in with times at 7.38 and 7.50. Again, not blistering times, but a couple of seconds better with the VP9 SK than I could get with this. And again, that's just I've got more time with the H&K, a little different ergonomics, and just the trigger on that particular gun is nicer than this one. And just for kicks, I also ran it with my 929 revolver, and I got times of 7.40 and 7.82. So, but again, I got a lot of revolver time over the course of decades. But still, the times are okay with this, and a little more work. I did miss a couple times with it, but a little more work, I'm sure I could cut those times down. So the question is, would I recommend the CSX? And I'll give it an unqualified yes at this point. For those who want a compact, single-action, hammer-fired gun with 10 or 12-round capacity, you know, I have become very fond of this gun. However, I have some suggestions for Smith & Wesson or for the aftermarket. First of all, fix that 10-round magazine and really allow it to be a 10+1. You may have to lengthen it just a little bit so that it doesn't bulge out when you try to stuff 10 rounds in it. Yeah, that's a design flaw. I never should have gotten out of there. Make a 13-round mag. You can see the 12-round is relatively flush fit. Put a little extension on it, like the Sig mag here, although that doesn't add any capacity. Just put a little bit of a finger extension on it, add one more round capacity, and you'll be up there with the Shield Plus. Better grip texture. That was one of my complaints in the original one. This slick aluminum right here just does not give me any solid purchase where I need it. Now, with this back strap on, I do get some certainly in the palm of the hand, some on the front, some on the back. But there's a lot of slick area on here, and if you put the small back strap on where all of this area in here is not covered, then this is a slick grip. I reached out to Talon, and they don't have any grips for this yet. They said they're looking for a CSX so they can finally pattern a grip, and once they do that, they'll send it to me. Meanwhile, I may put some skateboard tape on that just to see if I get a little better control when I'm trying to run it a little faster. And how about optics ready? Hey, everybody's coming out with an optics ready gun nowadays. I can envision Smith coming out with an optics ready version of the CSX at once most people have bought the CSX to start with, then sure, then come out with an optics ready version, something else for them to buy, or maybe even a performance center version that's also going to be optics ready, kind of like they did with the initial release of the Shield Plus. And finally, get rid of this doggone trigger tab. On a hammer-fired gun with a manual safety, that trigger tab is absolutely useless, does absolutely no good. On a striker-fired gun, all it is a drop safety anyway, and when you got the manual safety on this thing, you don't need an overriding drop safety. The trigger tab just is useless. Although, I understand from a marketing standpoint, everybody now is used to a trigger tab, and by gosh, if it doesn't have the trigger tab, it's not as safe, right? So overall, this is a useful, unique entry into the micro pistol category. The weight is right spot on. The size is great. The safety works well, and it's ambidextrous. The first batch of triggers may have had some issues that may have been on some of the early releases, but again, this trigger on this one is just certainly not a 1911, but it's a very nice trigger for what it is.
What about the feel of the trigger? It feels different. You know, it's not bad. It's just different. And I don't know if I like it, but I don't dislike it.
A little room for improvement, but not a whole lot. The price may be a little bit high at this point, although we'll see how the market shakes that out. I think that these probably will end up having an actual price of a little less than the MSRP. But again, we'll see how the market shakes out on that. So this 1911 guy will give the Smith & Wesson CSX a thumbs up. And you can help this video out also by giving us a thumbs up for this video. Certainly like, subscribe, share, and so forth if you haven't already done so. And certainly helps us continue to get noticed in the YouTube algorithms. So that is my usual short, which means not as short as some. Second look at the Smith & Wesson CSX. It's not really 1911-ish, but it has some overall manual of arms that's not unfamiliar to those who shoot 1911 pistols. And again, that's found a home here on Riders Range. Thanks so much for stopping in.